Hey, this is Russell back again with today's episode of Civilization 5. And we're going to see, again, just a lot of working on the pips. We want to bring that science up by a ton because we're going to get the research labs in. Now, this next stage, what we're kind of going to see in this episode, is going to be a big push to get that science up. We still have a lot of public schools we have to build. We have a ton of research labs we need to build now, and if we can get that science up, um, like to put in like a lot of like when I'm talking about getting our science up, I'm not talking about researching a ton of technologies. This episode, I'm talking about getting the actual amount of science pips that we are making up. If we can get that science up, once we reach a certain point of like science per turn, we are going to be able to time our we're going to be able to acquire many great scientists and then push through all of the technologies like super fast. But first, in order for our great scientists to have the maximum payoff, we're going to have a lot of science per turn coming in order to be able to pull that off. So you see me queuing some wonders. You see me queuing like a couple research labs in different places. You see me prioritizing some cities on the World Fair and other cities not on the World Fair. Um, there's just a lot going on, and we don't want to focus on just one thing entirely. I mean, we want to be able to put little bit of into everything, but then again, like I said, it is going to be important to get those public schools up, those research labs up, because the more science we make overall, the basically the more we're going to be able to get as like a payoff by our great scientists being popped and stuff like that. So, there's a lot to kind of have go through your mind, and you could play the game in autopilot at this point and just let yourself slowly get to the point of victory. But there is a way to win the game faster as well. And if we want to make it sure that we win the game faster and we play into our strengths and our freedom ideology, what we want to do is we want to accumulate lots of gold and accumulate great people, particularly great scientists, because those are the two things that are going to lead us to victory that play into our sort of strength at this stage of the game. Um, if we wanted to go for a conquest game, we would have gone for autocracy or maybe order, but more likely autocracy. And we would have started the world conquest as soon as we got like regular tanks and stuff like that. For like the quick and speedy movement to be able to push through like everything all at once. And maybe we would have been able to finish the game at around the same time that we did finish it, or maybe a little later. But yeah, um, it's one of those things where we have to. We've gone for a certain victory type, and now we have to stick by it. We went for a certain victory type when we chose the ideology we want. So that's what we're going for now. It was a little janky there because I believe I just loaded the save game. I obviously didn't play this whole game in one sitting. And you see those like kind of like gray areas. Whenever you load a save game, not all the terrain is like loaded all at once. Like you have to kind of like look at the different terrains for it to be loaded. And maybe it's not like that on higher end computers, but it's that way when my computer starts the game at least. I have to like look around to load the different tiles and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, we're going to pop that guy, get some another great work to get that extra little bit of tourism. Culture doesn't really pay off, like a culture burst like that doesn't really pay off for great scientists that much. Um, it is better to get the tourism because overall, the more tourist influence you have on people, the more stable your ideology is going to be, as well as you'll be able to influence other people to your ideology. And the more dissent you can cause in the different empires around you by making your ideology seem more compelling to the citizens, other people's citizens, uh, the more instability is caused by that, the better. Um, Instability in your opponent's awesome. So yeah. Um, and conversely, you want to make sure that people are loyal to you in your empire. So at least if you have dissidents, your happiness will outweigh your dissidents. And typically, in most games, everyone can be what ideology they want to be, unless you're the AI. The AI is pretty bad at managing ideology. Like against human players, if you focus on the different happiness factors of your ideology, you can usually always keep the ideology that you want. But yeah. I'm looking at the different tenets. I'm considering the spaceship for Gold 1, but I end up going for universal healthcare because I can get the spaceship for Gold 1 anytime. And I haven't gotten to the stage where I've researched all the parts yet. That's going to come, of course, when I can pop all the great scientists and after I've built a number of the research labs and stuff like that. But yeah, we have a clear path to our victory. It's just about getting us there. It's just about bringing that science up and stuff like that. And happiness will help us do that because golden ages are good. And, the more happiness we have, the more golden ages we have. Universal healthcare thing didn't do a whole lot for our happiness, but it lets us get another second level tenant, which is going to be very helpful to our happiness. We'll get into that a bit later. I think it's the second level tenant that we need to boost our happiness. I'm not sure. It's been a minute since I played a Civ 5 game. Obviously, I recorded this a while ago. And I've even finished recording now the other campaign that I was going to show you guys as well. That series will be uploaded after this Civ 5 series. And this Civ 5 series doesn't have much more longer to go. I will say that now. We're nearing the end of this series. And you may think, you're all the way back in penicillin. How are you going to finish this series, very soon? Well, you'll see the strategy that we'll employ pretty soon here. And we'll see it all pay off next episode. But you can kind of see us preparing for it here. Not by building railroads, although that does help. The infrastructure does help. Getting all the improvements helps. But ultimately, it's all going to be about bringing up our science and bringing up our gold count. Because those are the two things that are going to lead us to victory. We're up to 1422 now in terms of science pip. It's important to watch that. We saved up a good amount of gold, although I'm sure we're going to spend some of it. Just because, I don't think we need that much gold. But our gold per turn is pretty important because, it's going to determine how fast we do everything. A research lab, those are good. Those are important. That will probably be prioritized in all the cities doing the World Fair when the World Fair is done. The World Fair shouldn't drag on for too long, which is why I only have a few cities dedicated to it. And the fact that we don't really need a ton of cities dedicated to it because of that. So this is going to pop up our happiness. You see we have 144 now. But now that the only reason it's 144 right now is because a lot of our cities don't have castles. Now that we've built Neuschwanstein, now there's a huge incentive to start building castles in pretty much all of our cities. And it won't be very hard to build castles because walls will take a turn or two. Almost in every city. They cost barely any production at this point in the game. And then castles will take maybe 3 to 6 turns in all of our different cities, I imagine. And we'll see probably that start to happen in a bit. But you get culture and gold and happiness, I think it is, from the castles now. Plus the defensive bonus, which is always nice. But it makes the castles just a building you want in every city at this point. Now in 8 to 8 turns, but actually that doesn't surprise me too much because that's a newer city built without a lot of mines. But yeah, it makes it a worthwhile building to get in all cities at this point. It does the same thing that multiple buildings would do for you. So one of the most powerful wonders in the game, something you always want to get. And interestingly, because it's limited by the fact that you'd think it'd be harder to get because it's limited by the fact that you have to have a city closer to a mountain in order to build it. But actually, what that does is it makes it so that you can more easily get the wonder because there's going to be a lot of AI that won't even have like mountains in their territory use sometimes. Depending on what kind of map you're playing, of course. Like there's highlands maps and stuff like that. That would make the wonder more competitive. But yeah, it's interesting that that limitation doesn't really limit you from it most of the time. It just makes it kind of easier to get the wonder. Um, like you won't always be able to build it in your capital, but if you are prioritizing building cities next to mountains, as you should for like observatories and stuff like that, you will have a city next to a mountain with enough production to be able to grab up that wonder. You always tend to. It's very rare that an AI can beat you to that wonder, unless of course you're playing on a higher difficulty level. Kind of a lot of the advice I'm giving right now is going to apply to maybe difficulty levels like maybe Emperor and below. Um, I don't know where it really cut off. It's not really like a cutoff difficulty level for any of this advice really. Because at the end of the day, civilization is about looking at your surroundings and adapting to do your best in those surroundings, dealing with what you've got. Um, it's interesting because I've been playing a lot of Civ free in this channel, uploading a lot of Civ free games, and I think that's even more so the case for Civ 3 because at least in this game, you're if you're playing with like the standard settings and stuff like that, you're usually guaranteed like 2 luxuries in your starting location. There aren't many other guarantees besides that. Like some civilizations have like starting biases for like desert and stuff like that. But other than that, like there isn't really like as much randomization of start locations in this game as there is in Civ 3 on standard settings at least. So I maybe there's a I'm pretty sure there's settings for that actually. I think I've messed with that before, but still, it's one of those things where yeah, it's interesting. But anyways, that's entirely off topic. No, yeah, civilization's about adapting. It's always been that way, like from the earlier games to this game, and yeah, that's why it's such a pleasant game to play. And even playing on a map like this, where like I've played this map multiple times with multiple civs, um, you really do get a different experience every time. It's interesting and enjoyable. That's why I always keep playing this game. That's why I've played pretty much every civ except for the Gods and Kings civs, which I'm going through now in these playthroughs. Um, so yeah. I'm not sure I'll upload me playing all of the different games for the Gods and Kings Civs. I know I'll upload Spain after this because I had a hell of an awesome time playing Spain. I played an interesting game as the Mayans. I don't think I'll be uploading that because it was a bit of an unremarkable game. I'd much more so upload games that have like of interesting points to discuss, maybe interesting topics to discuss, and I think that's going to be very. It's going to pertain more to like the Spain game than any other game I've played so far. So I'm pumped to show you guys that one because there's a lot that goes on in that game, and yeah, I don't want to get too much into the details of that one though. This is the Byzantines game, so you see me pouring a ton of influence into these city states because I've been reminded of the fact that the that there's a World Congress. So we're seeing some new natural wonders by doing that, interestingly, which has boosted our happiness ever so slightly. You see our happiness is up to 167. We're already almost at the next golden age. Like, at this stage of the game, the golden age has kind of just come rolling in because of all the things. And, you know, that's a production boost, that's a gold boost, so much going on. We are going to be able to be the host. All of those city-states we just bribed to follow us, their votes don't count right now. Because that was the votes that count are votes like from the city states of the previous turn. Um, So we didn't influence the vote by doing that. The reason I'm investing into city states though is because soon after this one, we'll see how soon right after this turn, we're also going to have like the other votes for different issues and stuff like that. And we want, now that we've discovered more city states from having our boat sail around and stuff like that, we're going to want as many as we can under our belt if we're going to ever pass the things that we want to pass. So yeah, it's good to get 22 turns away still. Actually, it's a bit farther away than I thought. We did spend all our gold doing that, but we're making 600 gold almost, and we're about to enter another golden age, so we're probably going to be making like at least 700, if not 800 gold, when we do that. It depends on what the different factors of the gold is, and how much my maintenance shoots up by building a lot of these different buildings and stuff like that. But yeah, we've gained almost 200 science since the last time I brought it up. It's at 1600 now. And you see it really does go up really fast as we start getting in some of these science buildings. Like the science buildings at the end of the game are very substantial compared to the science buildings at the beginning of the game. And that's why it's kind of a waste when you pop your great scientists when you only have a couple of when you only have libraries and universities. So you see, we won that, and we're going to be making double the culture now. So actually, there isn't any happiness things here. Combat strength, 6 units maintenance free, 15%. Now maybe the time to get the level 3 tenant. Let's see what we do. Rationalism is a good idea, actually. Because that lets us get to our goal for science faster. And we also want the ability to purchase those guys via faith, I think. Although I don't think we get that till the end of the tree. Although I could be wrong on that one. It's been a minute. But rationalism is going to be important. Research lab, factory, research lab, public school, or medical facility. There you go. That way we can grow faster. So all these things comes back to science. Like, the more your faster your ready city grows, the more base science you're going to have because your science is based on how much pop you have. And we have 165 happiness. It's probably only going to go up, not down, because we're building castles and stuff, which now give happiness. And so yeah, we're up to 1757 science now. And that's solely because we went rationalism. You get 10% extra science when your citizens are happy. And our citizens are happy, if you hadn't noticed. And they're going to stay happy pretty much for the rest of the game. So that's a pretty substantial boost. And yeah, we got a lot to go through. We're making almost 2,000 2,000 culture return now. So we're going to be able to blow through our social policies really fast. I wouldn't be surprised if we were able to burn through the whole rationalism tree just in like a few turns because of that. So that will probably bring us closer to our victory. And again, we didn't have to dedicate a lot to the World's Fair to be able to do that because we have lots of very high quality cities. Like there isn't really like a city in the Empire that can't build a unit or something like that. Like the production cost is too high for anything. Because we've pretty much dispersed our production and our science and our different yields across the Empire pretty well. And I've always tried to make an empire that if the capital was to fall for the Empire, you would have so many other very good backup cities that it wouldn't mean the death of your empire if you lost your capital. And the reason why that's an important way to build your empire in this game is because, especially in multiplayer games, it's so easy for someone to just drop a nuke on your capital and for that to just screw you over for the rest of the game if your resources the whole game has been dedicated to building up the capital. And a way I used to play was having all of my cargo ships going back to the capital, growing the capital, making the capital the best city. Because I figured if you have all the tradition bonuses, um, it's most efficient to have the most citizens in your capital. Now we have 2,122 science, so that's shot everything up very high. I know you don't even have most of the research labs in yet right now. So yeah, so we're at a point where Broers has 20 pop. Thessalonica had like 21 pop there when we saw that in the thing, and even our cities that we've just conquered in Egypt, like we had like a 19 pop Alexandria, I think, or something like that. That was the thing we built, but we have like Thebes and those cities, and they have pretty good pop right now as well. If our capital was to fall, we have like a whole other half of the empire. If all of Asia Minor and um, Greece fell, we would still have like a very workable state to work with as like the Egyptian, Egyptian replacements, almost Greek Ptolemaic Egypt, if you will, hilariously. Um, we have backup cities, and we could still win the game. Uh, we'd probably be a lot less likely to live and win, but yeah, we've reached a 200 happiness site. We've reached 200 happiness, by the way. Probably won't stay at 200 happiness for too long. Probably fluctuate up and down, but yeah, because of course we're probably going to be popping, getting a lot more citizens, especially now that we're getting some of these medical facilities in. Her places are probably going to grow. Spain has adopted the order ideology. We'll see how long that lasts for them. I'm sure they're going to have dissidents. In fact, I'm curious to see if I click on that next turn to see the dissidents list. I hope I do, because I'm curious to see how many dissidents are at different places right now. That's a problem playing with doing this as a post commentary. I can't like just sit through and talk about the information. So overall, we're content, and there's civil resistance, a minus 17 happiness among Spain right now, or the minus 5 happiness overall, but minus 17 happiness coming from being order, and that's just on the first turn. That's going to go up for sure. So they're probably going to go past the negative 10 point in happiness, which means they're going to start getting revolts, and they might even flip to a different ideology in order to avoid getting, all of their tiles pillaged and stuff like that, and getting screwed over by the ideology. We'll see. So yeah, it's interesting that Spain is the first one to get to that point, because compared to like what you see Poland is doing, they don't seem to be as powerful as Poland. Like, they wouldn't have been like the people I'd feel most threatened by, especially because they didn't even get Gibraltar. Spain has that bonus uh, for like working great tiles, whatever the word is, the world wonders and stuff like that. Is that it? No, I'm not sure what it is. But anyways, they have that bonus, and yet they can't take advantage of it because they didn't even grab Gibraltar. And that's something I don't want to spoil what's going to happen in the Spain game. I'm pretty happy with how I played it, and I think it was very fun. I think anyone who yeah, I think people will enjoy that series. Well, I'll just leave it at that. I think the crazy things that gets done in that series is going to be worth the watch. I don't want to spend too much time overhyping that series, though. Let's go ahead and get back to this. We're making 2,600 science now. This is what we're talking about. So if we went through like and made like 10, 20 turns of 2,600 science, like, in a row, our great person, when we pop our great scientist, will be able to explode into just a ton of science for us. And yeah, and we've saved up a decent amount of faith. We did spend a lot of faith on late game pagodas, which is not the best use for it. I won't lie, because you don't get a lot less yield back from them, and they cost a lot more faith in the late game. But it wasn't a bad thing either. Like, it gave us a good boost in culture and happiness as well. Um, so I don't know. Maybe making the pagodas at the end of the game wasn't the best of decisions, but it all works out in the end. I think all the numbers came together really well, and we're gonna see that in the next part, because it's kind of gonna be the finale. I guess I don't want to spoil it too much, but we are going to be able to get from this point to the end of the game very, very quickly, and you guys will see why in a bit. Um, However, for today, we're nearing the end of this episode, so I'll say it now. Thank you guys so much for watching the series. There's a little bit of time left before this series ends. You see me considering a place to put the guy there, and at this point, just make it manufacturing. We don't really have any wonders that we really want to build at this point. We're getting to the end of the game, and the more we can churn out, the better. So yeah, I'm very happy with how the gameplay in this series turned out, at least. I thank you guys for watching who have watched. I encourage advice in the comments. I also really would love to hear your guys' feedback on how you guys think this series went. The next series, of course, will be based a bit more so on a higher difficulty level, and you guys will be able to see my strategies at that difficulty level. Not too much of a higher difficulty level. Again, I don't want to overhype it. I think I play on Emperor that game, which is still a pretty low difficulty level. At the same time, I didn't want to play on Deity and get creamed my first time on my first YouTube upload. So that's why I'm playing here. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, favorite, subscribe if you guys want to see more. Have a good one. God bless. Bye. Like, favorite, and subscribe if you guys want to see more. Always interested in your feedback down in the comment section. You guys have a good one. God bless.